scary.
The latest Auditor General report proves a shocking reality. Corruption, especially in the public sector, is getting worse, not better. Many argue strongly that it is the private sector, you and I, who corrupt a readily corruptible public sector. So we are not winning the war against corruption, and begs the question, why we are so corrupt? We will connect Ghanaians home and abroad to explore. We connect after the break.
Education is the key to our development, and it is our responsibility to ensure everyone everywhere is educated. The Multimedia Group Limited, in partnership with SES and WoloAfrique.com's Wolo TV, presents Joy Learning, a channel dedicated to providing educational content for all levels and skills training. It is time to nourish the mind. Joy Learning collaborates with Wolo TV to deliver a new learning experience. Joy Learning coming soon on Multi TV.
Have some fun with Multi TV. Kill the bottom with Multi TV. Boost your business with Multi TV. Multi TV, Multi TV for free.
Multi TV will like to draw the attention of viewers and the general public of some unscrupulous dealers and installers who are offering fake and unaccredited digiboxes as Multi TV digiboxes. Multi TV currently has quality from Syndicated Capital as the accredited digibox on the market. Look for the NCA approved stamp. Insist on the approved Multi TV digiboxes to enjoy warranty and after-sales service. Multi TV and its approved distributors will not be responsible for any problems arising from the purchase of fake or unaccredited boxes. Viewers should also ensure that any installer who works on your Multi TV box has a Multi TV installer ID with a name and installer's unique ID number. Multi TV, just thrills.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans Manson. I listen to you every day, and I encourage you and thank you for all the educative programs you mount.
Yes, you are live on Joy 99.7 FM, and this is Ghana Connect. Well, this conversation was triggered by something I heard the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee say about the latest Auditor General's report.
The figures for the amount of infraction have more than doubled. It's something that is quite worrying.
It's scary, actually.
Yes, because if in 2017 the infractions dropped from 2.1 billion Ghana cedis to about 822 million, but 2018 report, the figure has now increased to over 5 billion.
Yes.
Over 500% jump. It's scary, but it's worrying that we should be having those infractions. We thought that the infraction should be reducing. When the 2017 report reduced in terms of infraction and amount, we thought that the 2018 will reduce further.
So that is the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, James Aveji. By the way, have you seen the latest Auditor General's report? Well, I can sum it up for you in numbers, and you may have heard him mention it there, but I can sum it up for you. It's 5 billion cedis. That is the value of corruption or potential corruption discovered by the Auditor General. Now, here's the kicker. This amount is nearly 4 times the amount the Auditor General uncovered in the last report. The maths, it's simple. Corruption is getting worse, especially in the public sector, and it's not getting better. But if you also consider that it is a private sector that often facilitates this public sector corruption, your 1 CD to the police officer, the 10 CDs to the passport officer. If you consider that, then yeah, you get the picture. We are simply not winning the war against corruption. And of course, I'm sure you've watched Manasseh's latest, mini documentary on the Public Procurement Authority, when it is alleged that those who got the public purse themselves made themselves be corrupt. It should beg a simple question. Why are we so corrupt? As the people some have asked. Now, connecting the studio with me is Musbao Razak, is a graduate of the Ghana Institute of Journalism. Also with me is Freddie Siama, journalist, Corruption Watch Project. Corruption Watch, I'm sure you've been following on the Super Morning Show here on Joy 99.7 FM. Jeremiah Kobi Sechi is a former president, University of Ghana Debate Society. He doesn't believe that the Ghanaian is inherently corrupt. And so if that's his belief, then what is the problem then, as the Auditor General's report adequately captures? Manasseh Zuriawuni is connected with me as well, and a host of other friends of mine who are also in the studio with me. I'm going to start from my extreme left here. You should watch it on my Facebook, on our Facebook Live. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Frederick.
Okay, from
Corruption Watch.
Okay, good, fantastic, that Frederick. Yes.
Jeremiah Sechi from the University of Ghana.
This is Musba Razak from Ghana Institute of Journalism.
The man himself.
Yes, and Estama from Odikro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Osemens, I'm a legal practitioner with Mesa & Company.
Yeah, Emmanuel Chibueze is my name, Ghana Nigeria Economic Group.
Oh, I see. There's an interesting thing when my producers were saying we need to get a Nigerian in this. Because
Benjamin.
in this conversation, yes.
Okay. Benjamin Baba Yamga, a graduate student from University of Ghana.
Okay, Benjamin, let me start with you on this. No, but this conversation is premised on an assumption that we are corrupt.
Okay.
Do you agree? This is a simple yes or no. Before we come to that, do you agree that we are?
Yes,
we are
I
corrupt?
do agree. Yes.
Okay, I'll leave Benjamin for now because he's a Nigerian. I'll come to him very shortly. Fundamental, the assumption. Do you agree with the assumption?
Yes, we are.
We are corrupt.
We are corrupt.
You agree with the assumption, or do you crew?
No, I disagree.
Oh, you disagree that? So we are not corrupt.
Yes.
As a people.
Yes.
That's okay.
Well, I don't think we are corrupt as a people either.
Oh, okay, interesting. So 2 against 2 now. Yes.
I disagree.
So you don't agree that we are corrupt?
Yes.
So we are not corrupt?
Yes.
Okay, so 3 against 2. Yes?
I agree.
Okay, so 3 against 3. Now Manasseh is a tiebreaker. Manasseh, please approach.
I disagree.
Oh, Manasseh, you broke my heart.
And that is shocking to a lot of people.
I'm shocked.
But I have a good reason.
You have
for
a
that.
good reason.
Yes.
Let's start with you then. What is your reason for saying we are not corrupt? By the way, you are the reason. We are responsible for JIDA, Suba, Ford, PPA. Count them. How can you tell me we are not?
Ghana, our population is roughly 30 million. And when we talk about corruption, the issue is how many people are engaged in this act. If you are to even assume, which is not true, that all the public sector people, those that work for the government, those on the government payroll are all corrupt, we are told we have about 600 to 700,000 people on the government payroll. So assuming that all of them are corrupt, then we are not talking about 5% or whatever of our population. So beyond that, the public sector, not everyone too is corrupt. So we have a few people who are corrupt, who are powerful. Corruption is not for everybody. It's for people who have the opportunity and people who are powerful. And there are people who pay bribes who are not corrupt, but they are victims of corruption. So my father in Ketekrachi maybe goes to a hospital. He's supposed to get something for free. He cannot read or write. They say you have to pay something without a receipt. So he ends up engaging or participating in corruption, but he's a victim. Right. Travel from here to my hometown in Bongo, and you find out that the ordinary Ghanaian does not have even the opportunity to corrupt somebody or be corrupted.
Okay.
So we have a few people, a minority, those who have the power, because to be corrupt and the kind of corruption you're talking about, it is perpetuated by people who have the power. Okay. And I also agree that with the private sector, it is one of the most corrupt institutions. You often target politicians. Yeah. There is a section of the private sector, and some of them too are not inherently corrupt, but there is a contract, and this person wants to bid and do the work fairly.
Okay.
But there is a mantra that if you are not prepared to pay 10%, then you have to fold up.
Okay.
So you find people who ordinarily would not be corrupt, but they are forced to. So generally, I don't agree that Ghanaians in general are corrupt. Maybe a percentage of us may be corrupt,
but not all of us.
Not all of us. Okay. And that percentage for me is even minute.
Okay. Frederick, you disagree? No, you disagree.
Well, I disagree. I disagree. Because at the end of the day, this whole talk about you being a victim of corruption, look, under the Criminal and Other Offences Act, right, accepting and giving a bribe is an offense, all right? The giver as well as the person who is accepting it. So you cannot argue that you are a victim, and so we should exculpate you from participation in corruption or culpability in corruption, all right? Now, I feel we're corrupt because at every point, all right, or at some point, each and every one of us has been corrupt. Now you ask yourself why? Why? Because look at the end of these corrupt acts. I define corruption as any act that is done to circumvent due process in order to gain some undue advantage. And at some point in time, we've all participated in some act in order to cut corners. Look, I'm a legal practitioner. When you file a process in court, ordinarily, each party is supposed to be served by the bailiff. They are paid by the state to do this. But if you don't give what they call lunch or facilitation, look, the process will be on the bailiff's table for God knows how long. You appear in court ready to move your motion, you find out that the other party hasn't been served. And so I, the lawyer, in the interest of my client, would want to ensure that service is done properly. I end up participating. Look, I'm a giver. I'm also corrupt. That's my stand.
Oh, okay. I'll come to.
I just need to ask a question.
Okay, ask.
If you go to Kolebu tonight with your sick mother or wife, and she's dying, and the only way to get a bed is to give money to somebody, would you take your sick mother home to die? And in this case, are you corrupt, or a situation has compelled you to be corrupt?
That I will not watch my mother die. I would pay the amount of money to secure her life. But look, that is no defense. I have done it. I decided to do it for a certain reason. You ask, am I justified in doing so? I would say yes. But fact is, I've still participated in it. And that's the reason why we are here. You understand? It's people are liking it to a cancer. It starts with one cell. It takes over because we accommodate it. If someone is demanding for money to give you a bed and you decide not to give the money, the person the next time won't expect some other patient to pay money. But because he keeps getting the money, he keeps expecting it, he keeps expecting, and then we are where we are now.
Yeah, you disagree that we are corrupt.
I disagree because
you've had the two opinions. Where do you stand?
I stand with Manasseh and Co.
Why?
And if I listen to Jeffrey's submission carefully, you can see that he's making some basic assumptions in his explanations, which is placing the willpower on the individual. But Evans, to a large extent, all of us here, we are products of our environment. If the environment is politically, judicially, and financially corrupt, individuals in the society will be corrupt.
Okay, so
what we are doing is that
is a society
financially
corrupt? Is a society then corrupt?
The environment that we are in is corrupt because what we are seeing is a reflection on what our society have chosen to value.
Okay, but the society is made up of people.
Exactly.
So the society is not an abstract
I
concept.
get it, Evans, but let me break it
so
down
the
this
society
way.
Is corrupt.
Let me break it down this way. Now you have in Jeffrey's submission, he's saying that based on the example that Manasseh cited, he's saying that the individual can choose, that you can exercise your willpower to fight it. But this is one against many. It's one against many. So you cannot use willpower to erase that. What you need is an interactive force, a group of individuals coming together to reset the value system of society, to change things. So you don't place it on the individual. So that's why I'm saying that what we are saying is a reflection of what our society values.
So your position is that it is a society that is corrupt, that makes the individuals corrupt.
Exactly. Let me give
not
you one.
not that the people are corrupt.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's this invisible pressure on people. So for instance, I mean, in our neighborhoods, you hear people saying that I'm going to work, and you don't know exactly what they do, but they are living flashy lifestyles. And right now, if you listen to everyday conversations, you hear people talking about working smart, or I'm a businessman. We don't interrogate further to us. So what kind of business are you doing? You know, but sometimes even for some of our friends, we know the kind of work that they are doing, and then we measure that against the lifestyle that they are living, and you can see that they don't measure up. But we are scared to ask them, so where are you getting the money from to sustain all this lavish lifestyle that you're living? But what do we see is that we reward them. We see them, we put them.
But who are the we?
When you say, that's what I mean, is the group. is the group. So in one case, we are looking at the single individual. In another instance, when I'm talking about environment, we are looking like the group. Is the group, is the majority that influence the values of society.
The group is corrupt.
Yes. Yes, Evans. If you want to look at that way. Yes. So you cannot play that person.
No, it's the state. No, we often let's just briefly. We often say this thing that when Ghanaians go to America, when Ghanaians go to Germany, when Ghanaians go to Great Britain, the very things they will do here, they won't do it there, because there are systems there to check. So it all boils down to leadership. And I always use this example. In South Africa in 2013, a driver driving on a highway decided to slow down. So I asked, and his response was that there are speed cameras here. If I go beyond a certain speed limit, they'll bring a ticket to me. And because I'm working for a car rental company, I'm going to lose my job. You come to Ghana, that person may not be necessarily better or more disciplined than a madman from Circle to, let's say, Odoko, who thinks he has to overtake everybody on the street. But there are systems there. So sometimes every human being can do the wrong thing, but where there are systems to punish certain behaviors, it is limited.
Yes, you say you side with Manasseh.
Yeah, I side with him.
Manasseh says we are, as a people, we are not corrupt.
Yes,
I think Manasseh. So what is the corrupt? Is this society or the system is corrupt? Is society the system that makes us corrupt? Manasseh, just clarify that. So we are not corrupt as a people, but
inherently we are not corrupt. But the system
makes us corrupt.
No, the system rewards corruption.
Thank you.
And punishes people who are prepared to do right.
Okay. So is the system's fault?
Yes, and the system, I want to speak about leadership.
Okay, I'll come to that in detail. Let me hear from. So that's his point. What's yours?
Yes, like just like Manasseh said earlier, that no one was born corrupt. And I think one thing that we need to appreciate is understanding what constitutes corruption, especially in this part of our country, because a lot of things that, say, someone in public office will do, which will constitute corruption, in a number of traditional, settings, some of these things are considered customary. And a lot of people, I mean, for instance, if you want to give something to somebody to facilitate a process, in some traditional settings, they call it a customary thing you need to do. You go see a chief, you need to give something, and they even call it paying homage. And you find a lot of people translating this in their public service. And while they do that, while regarding this as a replication of a customary practice, is hereby regarded as corruption. So there's a certain, to a large extent, a lack of clarity as what constitutes corruption, because you find.
What is it for you?
For me, I'll talk about
as an everyday Ghanaian.
Yeah, for me, I'll talk about just like what my colleague said here. Circumventing a process, a due process, or say someone in public office using his office for personal gain. You understand? But like I said earlier, that lack of clarity as to what constitutes corruption, because a lot of people are doing things that they don't even see as corrupt. For instance, like Manasseh made reference to somebody who gets to the hospital and he said, look, I have to pay this for this to be done for me. He's seen it like something normal, something that he does it almost everywhere. He has to give his kid money before the kid does something, before all of this. So they've almost come to see it as a normal way of living. So the moment it gets to a point where you classify it as corrupt, then it's like, oh, really? I never knew this was corrupt, because in his normal way of living, this is a normal way of living for him. So that lack of clarity as to what constitutes corruption, to a large extent, is problematic. I remember when Emo Shaw just recently said that even conflict of interest is not well defined in the Constitution. So somebody will be doing it, say, well, this is really not problematic because he feels he's doing the right thing. But sometimes you go into the laws and you realize that, well, this is actually criminal. But the person didn't know because of that lack of clarity. We'll all be saying corruption. But let's cite the instances that we call corruption. A lot of things we might even refer to as corruption is someone's normal way of living.
Okay. You're agreeing him. Put the microphone.
No, I disagree.
You disagree?
Yes. And I'm saying that, you see, we need to understand what we mean by corruption, just as you say. There are various forms of corruption. Maybe he is talking about white-collar corruption or grand corruption, which involves some of the cases that Manasseh has done that we have talked about. But there are things like petty corruption. I will just give you this thing from a GII consortium study that was done, published in 2018, but they did this survey in 2016. And of people who had actually come into contact with police about this is passport office. 63% of the people who had come into contact with passport office had paid bribe.
Goodness,
that is a majority.
Yeah.
And so if we are asking ourselves whether we are corrupt or not, we should be looking at what the majority do when they are under that circumstance. If you take the media.
17. You have to slow down small.
Yes, 40% said they had come into media contact with media people and paid bribe.
14%.
14%.
I said they had to pay the bribe to the media person.
They had paid bribe to the media person. 14% of them.
I have to say I'm not part of that.
But look at DVLA. 74%.
Wow.
Of people who had come into contact with DVLA said they had paid bribes.
That's a majority. That's overwhelming majority.
And when we talk about the forms of corruption, from where I sit at Corruption Watch, our cases we have done have unraveled various forms of corruption. You have seen conflict of interest. We have seen manipulation of contracts. We have seen abuse of power and abuse of office. All of these are forms of corruption. And various categories of people are perpetrating these acts. And it doesn't have to do with somebody who is just in power. Look, if you give a poor man the chance and he finds himself in the city guard, what does he do on the road?
He takes money.
Yes. Is that person corrupt because the system that the police runs has forced him to be corrupt?
Because he is inherently corrupt. It's just that the power is exposing the inherent corruption.
Precisely, because
but that disagrees with your position. Why are you saying
No.
You said a human being is not inherently corrupt.
Yes,
and the man is saying that that city guard who was not in any position to take money. Now you put him in a position of power. Quickly now taking the money. In there.
Look, I made this point about the truck driver the last time.
That to happen also because there are certain places you don't pay a fine to anybody. Go to there's a very
I'll allow you to finish.
No,
yes. I like
go to this building. I went there recently because I was doing this on PPA City, the airport city. This very nice building where you have a parking lot. You go to pay and they still write a receipt for you and sign. Why can't we automate these systems? Elsewhere, I'm saying that certain systems allow for people to be corrupt. I'm not defending or saying that it is right for them to do that. But we give too much room for people to be corrupt. This city guard, go and put this same city guard as a city guard in London, and they will not be corrupt.
No, but Manasseh, that is what shows that you are a product of your environment. In as much as hold on. In as much as your environment is corrupt and is polluted, you will become corrupt. So if you say that people live in Ghana is corrupt, the environment is corrupt, but the people are not corrupt, I'll disagree with you. The National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, which was passed by Parliament in 2014, actually says that corruption is endemic in Ghana and is it permeates every sector of Ghanaian society. That is the national document that we are working with, and that is how it sees corruption. So and I'm saying that look, the trotro driver, what the trotro meat, what does he abuse? Is it not coins? Because that is what is available to him
to corrupt.
When he's taking chobo, it is in the form of coins.
True.
Put that same person in charge of 1 billion cedis, and he will steal it.
It will graduate
because he started by stealing coins.
You see, we mentioned chobo. That's corruption too, right? And another one that we all been corrupt.
You see, No,
you know, sorry, I haven't had others. Let me go ahead.
We have to take a take on all this.
Yes.
You see,
so Chukwueze.
Yes.
Speak to the microphone.
You see, corruption. There is an inherent potential for every human to either deviate to the wrongs or to the rights. Now, these tendencies respond to environment.
Okay.
So, you find a small child who is in school who wants to get something more from the parents, tells the father some kind of lie to get more.
True.
Is that right?
As parents, before experience that's true. Are you saying that is corruption at that level?
That is what is available to him.
Okay.
That is the level he can operate in. So if he tells his parents to give him a little bit more through some deviant ways of extortion, that is extortion. Now, extortion is corruption. At his level, picking it up from parents is what is available to him. If he rises in official positions, he has the government to extort. He has the taxpayers' money to extort. Now, let us not just restrict corruption to what you may call financial corruptions. We have all forms. We have corruptions in the forms of examination, malpractices. We have corruptions in the forms of misrepresentation, misapplication, misappropriation of funds. We have corruptions even in the forms of nepotism.
I really like the Chobo example. But it's as basic as it gets. Chobo really means when your parents sends you with 5 CDs.
Okay.
Buy me food for 4 CDs. You actually buy the food 4 CD 50 pesos.
Difference now it's called entrepreneurship.
It's called entrepreneurship. And then you pocket the 50 pesos. You know, look, that I have done.
So you see, in every
absolutely,
he's been corrupt once, but he's saying he's no longer corrupt.
No, how you say that? In fact, I was going to come around and ask that question and see who is honest. But yes.
So
right.
you see, in every human society, there is the tendency for us to deviate to either wrong or right. It is our environment, our values that shapes us to what we become.
Okay.
Either we become good people or bad people. But there is the tendency for us to deviate to vices. That is where the law comes in to correct any form of deviation from what is regarded to be the norm. So now, there is no society that is not corrupt. There is no human that does not have the tendency to be corrupted. The only thing that guides you will then be the law and the values. But you see, values changes. So law is the only thing that is there to make man to abide.
But thankfully, you're coming from Nigeria. As Ghanaians and Nigerians, we have the laws. We have some of the most stringent laws. So what is it?
So you see, like they were mentioning systems and societies. We have systems in place, to make sure that we work. But society is not happy with systems, and so we seem to circumvent systems in order for us to do what? To
be our corrupt selves.
Whatever, whether it's parochial interest or whatever, for our own
so we
personal
are
benefit.
The system.
Yes, human beings circumvent the system because the systems include the laws that are put in place to make sure that we obey.
Okay, so maybe I need to start by asking the same question as everybody.
Okay.
Your fundamental starting position is that we are corrupt.
Totally.
Okay. Yes, let me hear you.
Okay.
You recently graduated from the University of Ghana.
No, I'm still a student.
In school.
Yes,
oh, good. So
yes.
I want to hear the student's point of view.
Yes.
Have you ever been corrupt?
Well, like I indicated, everyone is corrupt.
No. You see.
Yes.
This is how you get. Are you taken back as a human being or
as a president?
Have you ever been corrupt? No, you say, have you ever been corrupt?
Well, I indicated yes. You know.
So is it yes or no?
Oh, it's a yes.
It's a yes. Okay, yes. I like the honesty.
Yeah. Because for me, I have a broader understanding of corruption, and we seem to neglect some aspect of corruption. Manasseh indicated that, bribe, giving bribe. For me, or what I've learned from scholars, bribe is actually a form of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have been given bribes, it means you are corrupt.
Once you've given or taken?
Yes.
Okay.
But there are times we have something we call auto-corruption by Lippmann. So for instance, like what, let me just take maybe parliamentarians for instance, Let's assume that the economic system is not good. We know that there's no money in the system, but one of them just tries to, one they move a motion, for instance, for increment in their welfare services, and then they support it. In this case, there was no giver to influence that kind of parochial interest among them.
Mm-hmm.
That is an instance of auto-corruption, for instance. But now going back to the point he was making, I would want to side with what Thomas Hobbes said, that human beings by nature are insatiable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what it means is that generally, or in any society, people by nature are corrupt. However,
I see somebody disagree with you. I'll come to you. Let him finish his point.
Yes. So the point he made was that since we are insatiable, hence there's a need for social order. That is the laws we are talking about. But you asked a question. We have all the laws and all that.
Yes,
but the question remains: who watches the watchman? Even those who are those who are even supposed to make sure they implement those laws, they are also corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So how then are we? So what it means is that even though inherently we are corrupt, however, the system, or more or less, has facilitated that, and we cannot take it away that Ghanaians.
So is the system's fault or is it people's fault?
Well, human by nature, for me, it is the people.
Okay.
Yes. So until the people make that conscious effort to change the system, then yes, I think.
But that's a very important point. So those who say we are not corrupt, they say the system's fault. But have you seen any effort by the people to change the system so that it checks the corruption?
It's not the system's fault.
Yeah, I want to hear him. And I'll come to you. You disagree with that.
Yes. Thank you, Evans. On whether we are inherently corrupt, what I believe is that we all have the potential to be corrupt. I don't think it is important or beneficial for us to throw the term corrupt around in any instance, because the term corrupt should carry some weight. We don't just say anyone is corrupt. We believe that individuals have a potential to be corrupt. Now, Jeffrey was talking about how we are all corrupt, even if we are the victims of corruption, as Manasseh says. Now, I think when ascribing blame to any human being, you have to measure the amount of choice that they have. He gave an example of the passport office. Now, if you are a normal citizen trying to get a passport in Ghana, you would go and stand there for hours. I know people who sleep there at midnight and they still can't get in the morning. When the system is so difficult, and it isn't because things aren't available, it's because individuals choose to be inefficient. So when they block the legitimate means of access to what you need, what they do is to open another channel that they themselves legitimize as the only means that you access what you need.
Your way through.
So at that point, your only choice is to bribe your way through, which has been legitimized by the system that is supposed to be giving you the right access to what you need. So at that point, your amount of choice is minimal if you have any choice in the first place. So that is why I think we shouldn't put the blame on the victims of corruption. It is the people in power who control the system, who design how things are done, who should be given the blame, because in the end, they have the power to change the system. And I don't think anyone who pays money to the passport office willingly does so. We would all prefer if we could get it the right way without having to sacrifice our meager funds. Nobody likes corruption on the victim side, but we all want a clear, transparent system that we can all live in and be assured of what we need to survive.
Evans.
Yes, Evans, just a quick intervention. My friend here quoted Thomas Hobbes, but he didn't say everything that he said. So I wanted to add the other thing that Hobbes said, that in the absence of social control, life will be short, nasty, brutish, and poor. He also added that.
Yeah.
So it means that Hobbes recognized the essence of social control on human beings.
We lack it?
You see, I started from the premise that we are not inherently corrupt. And there is a special reason for that. If you look at the definition of corruption that Professor Chris Member provides, he actually used a short formula to explain it, that corruption is a function of motive and opportunity. If you are able to eliminate motive and opportunity, you have a corrupt-free society.
Really?
So, yeah, so if you have a motive, motive can apply to situations where people are not paid properly. People have worked for several months, 6-7 months. They have families to take care of.
But that's highly debatable. There are people who are paid very well. In fact, in society,
in those instances,
those who are really paid, who are already wealthy, who are in a position of power, who appear to be the most.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's the opportunity part, and that's the motive where people want to be greedy. Okay, and they have the opportunity to actualize that.
Let me just give him an example.
Okay.
Here at Multimedia, if they send you to go and cover a story, there's an event. When the station does not provide you with a vehicle, when you come, you are paid your TNT. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Yet you go to certain media houses, they don't have that opportunity. So the event ends and they harass event organizers. So they have to line up and take money before they can come back and file their story. Sometimes they threaten the event organizers that if you don't pay us, your story will not be aired.
Does that justify the story?
No, I'm saying it does not justify.
Is corruption?
Yes, I'm saying it does not justify. But there are two instances where one media house punishes people who line up after events to take that money.
Okay, so that deters.
Yes, so the multimedia journalists may not be necessarily not more honest than their colleagues from other media houses, but the systems. Okay. Go to Ashesi University, there are some who do examinations without any supervision. They don't have any invigilators. They sit down and write the examination and they don't copy. These are Ghanaians.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that corruption is endemic, and I agree with Fred. That one, you can't take it away. But
if it's endemic, then we are corrupt.
I'm saying that we are talking about inherently corrupt.
Okay,
but there's no word inherent in what you.
Are we corrupt as a people? First of all,
there's no inherent.
So that's why
I disagree.
I'm saying it is very common.
Okay.
But I also ask the question: the same people who do certain things in Ghana, if you take those same people to another jurisdiction, they behave differently. So I'm agreeing that corruption is endemic, whatever. But I am also saying that there are certain systems that
minimizes the tendency.
Yes, but here, those being corrupt, there's an incentive to be corrupt.
Okay.
And if you want to be honest, go to the public service. If there's somebody in an office who says they are not going to do these bad deals, they become the bad people and are targeted.
Let me ask you. I'll go around just very short questions and answer to this one, because this will illustrate the point. Have you ever been corrupt?
Of course.
Thank you. Have you ever been corrupt?
No.
You've never been corrupt?
Yes, I've never been corrupt.
Wow.
You've never been late.
and lied about why you were late.
Why am I being attacked?
You've never been late.
Why am I being attacked?
And lied about why you were late.
Why am I being attacked?
No, I'm asking you. That's a form of corruption.
Can't answer that question.
You've never been late and lied about why you were late.
I have been late before, and I was honest. I don't know why I'm being attacked for having integrity.
No, he's simply asking you a question. Follow up.
Thank you.
So you never. Okay, that's interesting. Have you ever been corrupt?
I've taken Chewa before, so I think I've been corrupt.
You've been corrupt. Manasseh?
Ever. I've ever been corrupt.
Okay, you've been corrupt. Okay, that's Manasseh. We'll take it. Headline. Manasseh admits he's corrupt. They'll write it.
I'm not saying I am corrupt. I'm saying I have ever been corrupt.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, ever.
You have been corrupt before.
Yeah.
Okay.
My lord, I'm guilty.
Too busy.
Well, I said it's a society thing, so we're all
Too busy. Simple answer. Have you ever been corrupt?
Yes,
you have been
corrupt. Yes.
So there's among us, there's only one person, and there are what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Listeners.
8. Only one says he's never been corrupt, right? So doesn't that illustrate the point? This is anecdotal. Doesn't that illustrate the point that we are corrupt? But there's a difference between.
I think you should explain the circumstances that made someone.
Oh, so now I'm guilty with explanation.
No. So Evans. On this question of school. So for instance,
yes. On this question of circumstances, let's put some science to it. Again, I'm going back to the GI consortium research they did. Now, on the matter of reasons for paying bribe, these are the reasons that people give. 30% of the respondents said that they paid bribe to speed up things.
Okay.
Who was compelling you to speed up any process anyway? Okay, so under what circumstance did you pay the bribe? And you paid it because you wanted to speed up things. For what reason? Who was compelling you? 24% said the bribe was paid to avoid problem with the authorities. If you want to avoid problem, if you are falling into any problem and you want to avoid it, you want to avoid the consequence of the of whatever you have done, and so you are paying to escape it, that is also still corruption. Now 20% said the bribe was paid to receive a service they were entitled to. So if you look at these three, 30%, 24%, 20%, that's 74% of people paid bribe, not under compelling reasons.
Okay. It isn't a
they had a choice to say, I will not pay.
But they offered to pay.
They offered to pay. And so if you are looking at the circumstances under which people are corrupt, look, if you have the willpower, he says that he has never been. That means that under any circumstance when he has been confronted by the option to be corrupt, he chose not to do it. So why have the majority chosen to do it?
Okay.
Is it because if they did it, they would die, or they wanted to stay alive?
Yes, so he's asked a very important question. And when we're talking about corruption, we are not talking about the state of being today, but we've gone through life. So we've been to school. There are times you were asked why you are late for class or to school, and it happens in the senior high school, for instance. You have to lie your way, or sometimes you didn't fetch water to serve the kitchen, and Karachi Secondary School, you had to fetch water. And there are times for certain reasons you're not able to fetch water to serve the kitchen. So you go and then find a way to either add your name or you sneak in. These are forms of corruption. We also have other instances of corruption, like paying of bribes. I have told myself I'm not going to pay a bribe. And when I went to do my, what's the name, driver's license in Tamale, they said I shouldn't write the examination. They'll find a way, and I said I was going to write. And I said, if you write and fail and come here. So as soon as I finished writing, I came back. They said, go and then buy the receipt form. And I said, I got 21 out of 30. And you're supposed to get 21 not to fail. So I got 21. And I said, I was coming back. I was on a short vacation. I was coming back to Accra. So they should allow me to do the practical test. And they wanted me to do it in 2 weeks, by which time I would have left Tamale. And in this case, I had to pay something to facilitate it. And I said I wasn't going to do it. I came back to Accra, and after some time, I went back and I got my driver's license. I could have gotten it earlier, like Fred is saying, but it took almost a year for me to get my driver's license in Tamale. So there are difficulties.
But most Ghanaians, I bet, would have paid to cut off all the stuff.
Yes,
that you
so if we are talking about corruption, we should also look at it from different angles. I think all of us answered general questions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you petilize or whatever.
Yeah.
Growing up, we've all done things that we consider corrupt.
Yeah.
But how many people would willingly go to offer money or take money to do something that is not right?
Yeah.
And like I asked this question, this particular instance, I felt it was wrong, and I told myself I'm not going to pay any bribe to get anything. But if I should carry my wife to the hospital, my wife is dying,
I'll pay the bribe.
and then somebody says, so give me 5 cedis, I can get you a bed,
I'll
so
pay
that they
the bribe.
save your wife.
Yeah, I'll pay the bribe. So here's the question. I think we all agree. I think fundamentally we all agree that we are corrupt as a people. But why? I think the why is in a lot of the answers I've heard, which is the system, which is that the laws aren't being enforced, and so they encourage it, etc., etc. But then it begs that another question, which is that is corruption inevitable then in a society such as ours? Because from what I've heard, it's almost like you cannot escape it. But do you agree that that's the case? It's almost inevitable.
Yeah,
I want to hear from him.
Well, Evans, I think something can be done about it. All right.
Is it? can you live in our society the way it is, and the Nigerians will come to you also, and say you will not be corrupt and live a good, comfortable life?
In my opinion, no.
Okay, that's my question. So why? But why is that? Why
Comfortable is relative.
No, okay, yeah, okay, you know what I mean. I mean, in whatever way you can interpret it. Can you live in our society such as it's structured with all the weak laws, weak enforcement, and say I will not be corrupt and still live a life that is comfortable, reasonable, as a human being?
Evans, I said no.
No, yes,
and I cited an example as far as my profession is concerned. That, I mean, if you don't give the bailiff that lunch, or process, no, don't serve it.
And your client?
And on the day out to move it, it will be adjourned again. And your client is paying you to move that application and get him what he wants. You understand? So I agree to some extent with Manasseh's view that, I mean, the system sort of throws the opportunity to be corrupt at you and leaves you with no choice.
Okay.
But I feel that, I mean, by participating in that, you are also being corrupt. And as Aristotle says, you are what you repeatedly do. All right? But Evans, very quickly, I just want to comment on the laws governing corruption. I feel they are not biting enough. You look at Act 29, the Criminal and Other Offences Act, and the various corruption-based offences, you realize that they are categorized as misdemeanors. Now, when it comes to offences, we have classes depending on the severity of the offence. First-degree felony, second-degree, and then you have misdemeanors at the bottom. Now, with misdemeanors, according to Act 30, it says where punishment is not prescribed, it's a maximum of 3 years imprisonment, which means it can be a couple of months imprisonment. Now, I juxtapose that with what you find in other jurisdictions. Take China, for example, all right, where corruption, which leads to severe loss to the state, involving a huge sum of money, the offense, the punishment is actually the death penalty or life imprisonment. And in addition to that, they also seize all assets, provided they can trace that you used money that you amassed to procure. So I think we need to get serious. We need to amend some laws and also work at enforcing these laws. Look, President Lula da Silva, ex-president of Brazil, he's been convicted. He's been sentenced. 15 years. South Korea, 2 ex-presidents.
That will never happen in Ghana.
24 years, 15 years. You understand? So the level of seriousness in fighting corruption, I feel, can be seen in the nature of our laws, how well we've defined corruption, and then how well we also enforce them.
I'll go around the table on this. The question I asked, do you think that you can live in Ghana with the systems we have and not be corrupt?
Well, no.
Okay. So that's a 2 no's. That is in some ways strong. Why do you say that?
Okay. From my perspective, I may or would.
So, from what I'm hearing is, it's inevitable. That in Ghana, corruption is inevitable. I mean, I'll come to you.
As it stands now,
it's inevitable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and So for instance, I would love to maybe explain using scholarly perspectives. Sure. So for instance, let's look at it from the point of if you like Emil Durkheim and that of Merton. These are scholars who normally would use the theory of anomy to explain why, for instance, some of these things are existing. And if indeed we want to resolve it, then we have to follow the processes that they have prescribed. For instance, they will tell you that, you see, in any society where you'd want the people not to deviate from the norms, what it means is that, first of all, you must ensure that there's education, quality education for them. The
majority of us are illiterate.
Exactly. So you can imagine. And this education is not just our formal education. Even it could be like the apprenticeship training and all that. Okay. Then there should be the availability of what? Occupations. So after they have undergone the training and all that, they have access to proper jobs. Now after that, we have to ensure in that society that there are proper incomes for some of these people. They earn better incomes. Haven't earned better income, they will be able to live a good standard of what?
And are less likely to be corrupt.
Exactly.
That's an interesting point. I mean,
yes.
but
the police case doesn't point to that.
Okay, yeah.
The police were not on single spine. They were not better off than they are today. But a lot of them are still more. In fact, some of them are no longer taking 1 CD and 2 CDs. Some are now taking 10 CDs. Meanwhile, now they are better salary.
Well, I'll come to you. Oh yeah, you have a back.
Okay. Well, you have a point. In fact, there was a research that indicated after the establishment of the single spine, the level of corruption in the security agency even increased, right? But you see, when we are talking about better incomes, some of these things are relatives, right? I mean, what makes one's income is relative. Now, you may be giving some income that for you might think it is better, but generally it may not be. For instance, a security officer living in Accra, looking at the cost of what living in Accra, the person may not be, pay for rent and all that.
Manasseh, I'll come to you shortly. Okay. I want to go to the UK now, because as we've all said, Manasseh has made the point about systems and carried corruption. But we have a system in the UK that makes it very impossible. I must state my own example. Hello, Force.
Hello, Evans. How are you?
I'm doing good. Before you even come, I want to share my experience in the UK. You know the London buses, right? So I was in the UK, and you have to buy an Oyster card and swipe. And Manasseh, this is the thing though you were saying. I wanted to use an example to come back on that. The system trusts that you would act properly. So you have an Oyster card. If you enter the bus, if you swipe or you don't swipe, nobody checks you really. But there's an assumption that somewhere along the route, a police officer might enter the vehicle and check. They might not. But the system trusts you to act sensibly and not to do it. But here is a Ghanaian who come from Ghana. In my system, the guy comes and takes the money. So, by all means, I have to take. But I go to a system that there's seemingly no checks. So I get my Oyster card. I didn't swipe. I was doing it and I was getting away with it a lot. Then one day, I was in the bus, and then it gets to the bus stop, and then the transport for London police entered the bus. Jesus Christ! and then I was caught. But that's the thing about systems. They just swiped my card, saw that I haven't paid. They billed me for £60. I was supposed to pay £2. They billed me for £60. And they didn't come to my household. But I had to pay, and I paid. Right? Because the system works. My point to you, Force, is it's so difficult to be corrupt in the UK because the system makes it almost impossible to succeed if you are. Correct?
Yes, Evan. Thank you very much once again on this lovely program. It is correct. Systems in place in the UK really, really works. However, it's not just working. I will not say that corruption is not in the UK. Corruption is in every society in the world. However, the systems and the law enforcers make sure that if you make a mistake and you are caught, you are dealt with there and then. They don't wait. They don't look for any chief to come and beg the law enforcer to change their decision. Once you've erred, you pay. It is that simple. Corruption, as I know it, is seen as people in powerful positions, using dishonest or fraudulent methods to typically get some gains apart from doing their job. People in the UK tend to respect what they do. The cleaner respects what he does. The police person gets paid properly, and they respect what they do. And they actually see it shameful to take a bribe to actually do what they're getting paid to do. And this starts from day one of their life. It is the way kids are brought up. And I always ask a very good question when I'm talking about corruption in Ghana. Who is our role model in Ghana? When we're growing up as kids, our role model is always Kwaku Anansi. And what did Kwaku Anansi tend to do?
Kwaku Anansi is a chief trickster.
Thank you very much. And these are people, this is the person that we put all our role models on. So if we can change right from the start, kindergarten, kids, it's actually, because I always see something in kids in the UK that I tend to see in Ghana. I left Ghana quite recently. And you see a kid finish drinking water, sachet water, and just dump it straight away. I will see a kid who has eaten a bar of chocolate in the UK, and feel the need to hold on to it till they get to the nearest bin to put the wrapper in there. These are two different processes. So corruption is something that is not going to be taken out of our system that easily. One thing is, we don't even question people where they get their money from. In this country, in the UK, you can have millions. Wherever whenever, the moment you put that money in the bank, they ask you the question, where is the source of the funds? They know it's your money. They're not going to fight you, but they ask you, where was your source of the funds? What did you do to get that money? But in Ghana, we only use rich people to actually chair programs in churches. So basically, we're endorsing what they do.
So the final question to you, Force. You've lived in Ghana. You've lived in the UK. When you were in Ghana, were you more tempted to act corruptly? Something that you'll never try in the UK? Be honest.
I'm very honest about that. Yes, you have to. Because it's a very simple thing. If you go to Rome, you do as Romans do. I'm not going to pretend that I have not been in that situation where I haven't gone past people. I have done it before. And I hate it when I do it because...
So, very quick one. Why do you do it in Ghana and not in the UK? Very, very brief answer to that. Why?
Simply because I get told that this is Ghana.
And this is our way of life.
This is our way of life. And that's why I say corruption is endemic in Ghana. You can't just walk away from it. And this is just to end my talk on this thing. The thing I want to end on is a quote from a Nobel laureate that says that without strong watchdog institutions, impunity becomes the very foundation upon which systems of corruption are built. And if impunity is not demolished, all efforts to bring an end to corruption is in vain.
Yeah, and we've seen that in Manasseh's work, and the institutions themselves seem to be the issue. I can't remember Manasseh, everybody briefly, and then we'll wrap up. On that subject, it says we are just the way we are.
Yes, you asked the question whether it is possible for you to leave and not. Yes, it is possible. And we should do it in our workplaces.
Okay. In a small corner.
In our small corner, and even in our workplaces, because when I started investigative journalism some 6 years ago, I came face to face with corruption.
But people attempted to influence you.
Influence me. And since I started till now, I don't think anybody somewhere
have succeeded
in giving me a password to drop a story. And I'm not saying that
maybe they haven't hit the mark yet.
No, there's
everybody has a price.
No, nobody. That saying is not true. That everybody has a price. It is not true.
I agree with you.
Because there is no amount of money you give me to drop a story.
Okay.
I'll never do it, and it won't happen.
God bless your soul. Chibueze, let me go around with you. So our societies are very similar, Nigeria and Ghana.
African society.
Yes. But is it a people? Is it a thing with us blacks?
You see, I was listening to some of the things they were saying about systems and everything. You see, it is people that operate the systems. Now, systems usually are put in place to ensure that humans don't deviate. Now, if you go to take a passport, for instance, you are told that within 2 weeks your passport should be ready.
And it's not ready?
Not even not being ready. But you want it in 2 days. You want it in 3 days because you are in a hurry.
Yeah.
Now, the officer who is to process that for you in 2 days will have to circumvent the system.
To do it. That's corruption. That's why
that is corruption.
So because we need to wrap up, give me the one sentence what you think we need to do as a people. And I think you say blacks as the African continent, we just the way we are. What do we need to do?
Good laws.
We have the good laws. Okay, enforcement. Okay, good. Let me take yours. You've never been corrupt, so you can help us. What works for you? What is it that worked for you? Very briefly.
From your example of living in the UK and on that bus, and Manasseh's example of Ashesi, I think what we learn from those examples is the importance of the soft indoctrination that we give to our people, that you can rise beyond corruption. That is why it's extremely saddening to hear on this bench that you can't live in Ghana without being corrupt. By making that statement, you have already conceded and told every hopeful child that your life is meant to be corrupt. I think that soft indoctrination is extremely important.
So we should start young. We should
start young.
Yes.
I'm just on the note that he ended. I just want to quote this that I wrote down from the former president of India, APJ Abdul Kalam, and he said that if a country is to be free, to be corruption-free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel that there are 3 society members who can make a difference. The father, the mother, and the teacher. The fact is that if you look at the current generation of Ghanaians today, there's really not much hope for them to be corruption free. The hope there is for this country to be corruption free are the young people in the primary schools and the junior high schools. They are the ones who need to pay close attention to.
Right, in 30 seconds.
Okay, so if you look at the global corruption reports released by Afrobarometer and Ghana Transparency International, 60%, if you look at the Ghana report card, 60% of people think that ordinary people can do something about corruption.
Okay.
And I think that is a way to go. All of us should have the willpower to refuse to be corrupt.
That's where it starts.
Yes, that's where it starts.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. I think we've all been honest about this. And what have you been saying on social media? Evans, I'm sure you heard how the new school uniform materials arrived at Makola with the Ministry of Education not knowing anything about it. Our printing companies in this country didn't print, so who did? Who gave the contract? Corrupt through and through. That's Nana from Spinktest Road said that one. Denu, this is Leonard in Denu says, Evans, the answer is simple. We are so corrupt because we tend to celebrate wealth without questioning the source of that wealth. Samuel says some Ghanaians are corrupt because they want to amass wealth to outclass the poor persons who have the interest of the nation at heart. And Kojo in Kumasi says the black man is biologically and naturally corrupt. We just have the high tendencies to be corrupt. The system or environment didn't come out of thin air. It's the human beings called Ghanaians who created the system. That is a harsh one. The black man is biologically and naturally corrupt. On that note, think about it. Food for thought. Thank you for connecting. And we'll be crossing over to First Take in Labadi Beach Hotel shortly.